Several weeks have passed since my last little video. I've been emailing myself links to various articles, videos, and reports regarding economic, political, and societal events that are impacting the U.S. So much is happening that it's hard to track and even harder to fully assess. And I've become more pessimistic about our future prospects as a nation. I am reminded of saying about bankruptcy, it happens slowly at first and then all at once. I call this situation death by a thousand cuts. No one thing is fatal. Cumulatively, they are. And I will consider that title for this and a few subsequent videos about these topics. We all have to guard against negative bias, and I'm trying to organize all this stuff that's pouring in order to figure out how much pessimism is justified. Much of what I have set myself concerns economic and financial developments. Health and medical are frequent topics. Employment and workforce data are important, and education and scientific research have really been critical to our national success, and they're under pressure now. And all these areas are intertwined and pose interlocking consequences, and I'm trying to organize my thinking based on these and a few other categories. I consider it axiomatic that a nation is only as strong as its economy. And this video will focus on some economic and financial articles and reports. What I am going to try to do is to pull up pages on the screen, make a few comments on each. I'm going to start with Fareed Zakaria. So he had a discussion with Kenneth Rogoff, who's a renowned Harvard University economist. And one of his books presciently warned about the dangers of a financial crisis, and it was called Al Dollar, Your Problem. So the real bottom line of the whole thing is that we are now approaching debt interest payments on our debt of about $1 trillion per year, and that's more than our defense spending. And the economic historian Niall Ferguson has suggested that when this happens, great power risks that it will no longer be great. So let me move on here to the New York Times, who's talking about the recent One Big Beautiful Bill. This is, of course, their opinion of it, but it's written by Stephen Ratner, who was a counselor to the Treasury Secretary in the Obama administration. And there's a few things he points out in here, but I want to scroll down a little bit. You can see he says the rich keep getting richer. Millions are going to lose access. Cost of college is going to go up. Climate change. It's a big budget buster. And here's, I think, the key thing is spending is way out of balance. And you can see on here the revenue in green, which is our the taxes are being collected, and the spending that we are making in orange. And we're now, about over 100% of our GDP. And it does look like it's going to continue to go up with the continued deficit, so to speak, in revenue, and we can only be spending more. So that's not a good thing. And the Yale Budget Lab is talking about inflationary risks of the rising federal deficits and debt. And it's talking about a 1% GDP permanent increase in the primary deficit. And it presents some interesting costs here. And over 30 years, home mortgage, average home mortgage will pay like $3,400, another $2,300 for a home mortgage. That's $3,400 for a small business loan, and your interest on your car loan will probably go up. And all these things are going to be inflationary pressures on the economy. And that's before we start talking really about the level of debt we have. And as the debt goes up, particularly as a percentage of GDP, all the borrowers are going to see that as a riskier situation, and they're going to demand even higher interest payments. Now, this is going to hit real people here, people like me in particular. Social Security is under a lot of pressure at this point. And here's this the Pew Research Center, which I think is fairly reliable. And trying to scroll down here, let me see if here it's probably hard to read here, but retirement workers, survivors, and they're about total people. Um, I'm looking for the total number here. I don't see it, but retired workers is 52 million. Survivor benefits another couple million. Non-disabled widows and so forth. The disabled widows another 7 million. So the Social Security total reading here. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but it's 69 million Americans now are going to be affected potentially by shortfalls in the amount of money that we have from Social Security coverage. And I think this is considered to be fairly imminent, and probably in 2033, I think, is what we're looking at as a possible problem. So I've just kind of put this up here. I'm trying to kind of use these things as data points and dig into it a little bit more in the future. But this is, I think, going to affect a lot of people. And Peter G. Peterson Foundation has a lot to say, and they're a fairly conservative operation there, and they just pretty much go by the numbers. And this is their claim, and pretty good analysis here. I think is federal debt is on an unsustainable path, and they're projecting it out. And up you can see right here is kind of where we are now in 2025, I guess, and projecting it out at this point in time to get up to almost 150% of the of GDP. And that's assuming we don't have any economic problems or anything like a recession that would cause our GDP to decline for a period of time. And again, they reference the structural mismatch between spending and revenues. And projected spending is on an upward path. Revenues are only slightly upward, but the gap is growing, and there doesn't seem to be anything on the horizon that's going to close that. So their projection here is the deficits, which are now somewhere about 1.9 trillion. So very soon the deficits are going to exceed $2 trillion. And that's an annual deficit. Every year we're going to be over $2 trillion. That's going to be added to the total debt. Doesn't sound sustainable to me. And that reminds me of Stein's law that says if something's unsustainable, it will stop. And I think that we're going to have to ask ourselves, are we going to end with a bang or with a whimper? And that's kind of all I have to say at this point in time. I hope this was useful, and I'll have to go back and review it and see what I think myself.